Hi, Kris from the future here. I just wanted to jump in here up top and mention that this is a podcast about some changes that are happening to the GitGud project. In that spirit, I've actually been trying to streamline the editing process for these podcasts, and this one is brought to you with the assistance of robots. I've been using an AI toolset to help me edit the podcast a little bit faster. There's a little bit of a settling in process, and so you'll hear a few more pops and clicks, a few other little bits and bobs here and there, and it's not up to the usual audio quality standard that I really like to maintain on the podcast. But as I say, it's a settling in period, and hopefully you can give us a bit of leeway as we move to the new toolkit so we can bring you new and cool stuff. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that in case, like me, you're quite audio sensitive. I'll try my best to minimize that in future. It's cool tech, though. Anyway, enjoy the podcast. Bye.
G'day, welcome to the GitGud.CG Podcast. This is the podcast where two CG artists document their journey of getting good. My name is Jaden and this is Kris.
Hi.
So today, before we get started, we've got a little bit of housekeeping to get through.
Yeah, so we're doing a bit of a format shake-up on the podcast. It's not you, it's us.
Look, it's not us, it's you.
No, it's not them, it's YouTube.
Yeah, it's YouTube. That damn YouTube. No, but in all seriousness, we're shaking up the format, which kind of plays into our topic today, which is when to stay quiet and when to be loud about things. And so we are, first of all, just making the frequency of our videos fortnightly instead of weekly. It should be the same time in the week. We'll let you know if that changes. And
that will account to the audio podcast as well. It will be going to a fortnightly schedule, even though I think the audio podcast is about 4 weeks behind at this point.
Yeah, and so we are also going to be doing some other sort of content as well. First of all, is that the main reason that we're doing this is so that we can focus on other things in our lives, primarily our art. Kris is doing this new animation course of his. I am really going hard at trying to find some jobs in CG, and so
it just seemed kind of rich at a certain point to be coming on every week and saying, here's how to get good, here's our documentary process, when every week we didn't necessarily have any sort of progress or any sort of actual material gains from what we were implementing. And we've sort of reached a point now where to actually say this, document how to get good, it's easier to just put our heads down, thumbs in the air, and do a bit of work and then come back and report on what actually happened rather than what we're intending to do. Because after a while, there's only so much you can just say, here's what we intend to do, or here's what we suspect. As opposed to here's what's actually happening. And by going fortnightly, we'll probably have a bit more to report.
Yeah, and so we're not only is it going to fortnightly, but some of the content will be a little bit different. So first of all is that we're also going to be working on our own YouTube channels. Kris has his YouTube channel up. It's 3D
Draw. Yeah, over
3D.
At YouTube.
Yeah, 3D Draw. My channel is not up yet, but it will be up eventually at some point. And so we will be doing a little.
I reckon.
Yeah, we'll be doing a little bit of cross posting from those channels to here. We're also thinking of doing a bit of a gaming channel as well. Not gaming channel, but we'll have a bit of gaming content on here.
It's GG.CG instead of GG.CG.
Yeah, and so I have finally convinced Kris to not only play WoW, but to play the refresh of the re-release of Classic WoW that is coming out. And
I have no idea what that actually means or what I've agreed to.
Yes, we're going to grind it to level 60. No one tell him how long that's going to take. We are going this purely an artist's perspective, where we artistically analyze the game through a game historian perspective, and it does.
Well, that's how I approached it.
Sorry.
Well, when you first brought it to me, I thought that's what we were doing. I've started to suspect that this is more just for Jaden to have a 13-year-old boy moment.
Yes, this is nothing to do with me when I was 13 and my nostalgia from that time. Nothing to do with it at all. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm salty that I didn't get to 60 in the initial re-release.
I still don't know what that means.
God damn it, Kris. And
just answer me a question. Do I need a clan? Is that a thing? And is it a cult?
Sorry?
Do I need a clan? Is that a thing? And is it a cult?
They're more like guilds. So they're not really cults. Oh, well, I suppose they can be, like any sort of guild could be. But, some of them are just, 13-year-old boys squealing about Chuck Norris and the Barons. So...
we'll make our own then. It'll be great. Anyhow, that's going to be actually part of the GITGUD.CG process, because I've always been a fan of animation from Blizzard, and Jaden's always been obviously aesthetically inspired by the hand-painted art of WoW. So it just seems like a natural sort of extension of our content to go in and do a series being sort of critical of that. Obviously, that's what I thought we were doing. I think what we're actually doing is just playing some WoW, but it could be kind of fun to watch me literally for the first time ever interact with this stuff, because honestly, it's like trying to explain the television remote to your grandmother. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride, kids. And so What else content do we have planned? So we've got the podcast going to a fortnightly basis. We'll be doing a little bit of cross-posting from our separate channels.
Yeah, so
we'll have some gaming content.
Apart from the podcast itself, what we're also going to be doing is some work-alongs, or some, we've been sort of referring to them as Let's Work, where we're going to be streaming maybe an hour, 2 hours of work on our projects, with the other co-hosts sort of managing the stream and sort of shit-talking the whole time. It's just so that we can sort of get a bit more of that documentary vibe, get a bit more of the work out there, and maybe start building a bit more of a community around the GitGud project, and sort of maybe try to build a bit of community around that, because we are also going to be looking at opening up a Discord server for that. And a lot of the live stuff, I think, though it's going to be streamed on YouTube, it might also be fun to sort of have that through that Discord, and just see if we can start to build a sort of muddy middle community there.
Yeah, a community of muddy middle artists.
Well, this is what I was talking to you about. You've got the rookies, right? You've got programs for everybody just starting out, and you've got programs for professional development. But what you don't have is a lot of communities just to support the people who are in that muddy middle, and that's sort of what we're trying to create here by diversifying our content a little bit.
Yeah. So we were talking off mic, I think last week or the week before, about some of these things where you've got the rookies, where that is focused on student grads. And that's really a sort of kick in the guts to people that, for whatever reason, can't study, and they can't, graduate from a school. So it's kind of like you're at an equivalent skill level, and you could even be a little bit better, and you do need that opportunity, but you can't do it because you aren't a recent graduate. So,
and we might even play with, if we can, not aping the model, but I kind of like the idea of maybe having the Get Goodies and doing a bit of like a competition.
The Get Goodies. That's just like an open, like, hey, screw you to those guys.
It's a meme award, let's call it that.
Yeah. No, I'm down for that. I can do the Get Goodies.
Yeah.
So the topic for today is when to stay quiet and when to get loud about something.
Yeah. And so...
When to get loud.
It's not an accident that we've come in with this topic as we're sort of going quiet on the weekly podcast, but also doing a bit more work, because the whole idea is sometimes you want that outreach, you want that connection, you want that community, feedback, all that stuff that comes from putting your work out there, having something to say, building a platform and creating community. But then on the other side of things, that is a lot of work, and you do sometimes just need to sit down and put butt in seat and get some work done. Otherwise, you don't really have anything to talk about. And when I suggested this, the way I was thinking about it is that you have to do both, and it's going to be more likely to be in seasons. So how do you feel about that? Because I sort of feel like I go through these phases where you have a lot to talk about, you have a lot you want to share, you want to unpack some stuff, you want to get a bit of attention on your work, and then the work becomes your social media, you're participating in competitions, that sort of thing. But then sometimes you just need to level up a little bit, and that's when you have to focus on your own core skill set.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're leveling up a bit. And the thing is, you can have a lot to say, but you just really shouldn't sometimes. Because not a doctor, don't quote me on this one, but scientifically speaking here, right? On a non-professional, potentially pseudoscience level, is that when you talk about doing something that you really want to do, I don't know, say it's like become the world's greatest animator, or you want to get, so jacked that Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like a Snoopy, I don't know. And you start going around, you tell people, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sign up for the gym, or I've just bought, a Maya license, or blah, 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 blah. And you've gotten a bit of a dopamine hit from that, from telling all those people, and then that dopamine hit is just enough to make you feel like you've done something, when in reality you've done nothing. And so you go, oh, I feel accomplished by talking about that thing. I can start that tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be tomorrow.
It's especially bad for as you say, the dopamine hit. I don't know whether it's especially bad for me because of the whole undiagnosed ADHD thing, but I always find that I get that satisfaction. Like, for me, likes on Instagram do sort of deflate my balloon a little bit. Like, it takes away that pressure to really do anything of inherent worth because you're getting that positive feedback.
Yeah, when you're getting that positive feedback from social media, it's easy to sit there and be like, nah, I can just chill for a little bit.
I'm okay. The tribe accepts me, and therefore I don't have to try anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Even though the tribe that is recognizing as 0.000000001% of the tribe, but
especially when it's more within context as well. Like, your favorite artists, they're getting millions of likes on their ArtStation posts or whatever, and you're just getting like 24 likes on your Instagram post, and you're like, I am a big deal.
Hey, this is Hotshot Kris with his Inktober going off charts.
My mom thinks I'm cool.
But yeah, so definitely time for us to, I think, focus on the things that we want to do. And I think having that less frequency will definitely give us a bit more juicy content, rather than us kind of being like, okay, what are we talking about this week?
Yeah, and I honestly think it will improve the content, and I think there's something to be derived from that as part of this documentary process, because we don't talk about it as much as we did in the earlier episodes, but this whole thing is a project for us, the whole GitGud project, going from where we were to a more professional mindset, and this is part of that. It just leaves us in a place where it is the next best step, and we're not abandoning the project, we're just diversifying the output.
Yeah, yeah. So, Kris,
Yes.
this is episode 18, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, episode 18. So, I really didn't know if we're going to get to episode 18, this far, but my question is to you.
Yeah, the consistency and the accountability has been really good just personally for us, and we're going to keep doing these calls just a little bit behind the scenes. It's just that coming at it in a very presentatory fashion only really works if we've got something to report, and by not having
or if
that
we have
sort
our
of
own little TED talk.
Yeah, not having that off mic time where we're actually giving each other accountability outside of these hours sort of makes it sort of stands in the way of what we're actually trying to do, which in turn sort of deflates the actual usefulness of the advice we're sharing.
Yeah. So my question to you, Kris.
Yeah.
18 episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like this has been for you, like when we started versus where we were?
Well, when we started, I think we had a better view of what the podcast was going to be and less of a clear view of what we were actually trying to achieve professionally and personally. I think those two have sort of inverted. Where the podcast itself is a cool project that we've got a good workflow around, but it's also not really serving the goals that we set out in order to service, which is why we're doing the shakeup.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. I think it shows that we've been able to evolve over that time, because 18 episodes is 18 weeks. We've only missed one, I think, but we did a double recording to cover that. And I don't know, it's the out loud accountability. I really would recommend it to anybody. We've got ideas about where we want it to go, and for instance, if it was going to stop, I don't think I'd even bother recording anything explaining that. I think we'd just say, hey, it's going on hiatus, see you later.
Vanishes into the distance.
Like every other podcast. But really what I think we've done is we've validated the model, and now we're just sort of letting it, bloom like a dandelion seed.
Yeah, we've kind of gotten from that initial format what we feel like we've needed to, and now it requires a bit of what would you say?
Nuance.
Recalibration is what I'd say. So for you in your development, Kris, and where you are as an animator, where are you now versus where you are then 18 episodes ago?
Well, to sort of lean back on the Dunning-Kruger curve, I think I'm still in the muddy middle. I think I started in the muddy middle, and I think I'm ending in the muddy middle. But I think I have traveled along that line. I think I have been able to start climbing, the Hill of Clarity, where I've started to understand exactly where my weaknesses are around this stuff, which makes it easier to address and work on them. The problem that comes along with that is that you do start to realize how much work it is. And you have to commit to that. And that's the whole topic of when to go quiet and sort of execute. That's now, because I've realized through this process how much I have to work on to get to the point I want to be at. And I've also realized more of a nuance in what I'm trying to do. Like, for instance, right now, I am at a professional level in some skills. But in straight up feature character animation, I'm not at a professional level. And making that cognitive separation is very difficult, because you can be a professional but also a beginner, and you can be a student but also an expert in other things. And
so would you say that during this podcast, it has allowed you to narrow your focus, because when we first started, you were like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I want to focus in on animation, maybe character animation, maybe I want to do this or that, and you feel like
I don't know that it's
more.
Honestly, I don't think I can say that, because I still have interests in all of the things I have interests in.
Mm-hmm.
What the showing up and talking about it does is reminds me what I'm currently working on. It helps me build good habits around what it is I'm supposed to be working on, as opposed to where the dopamine flows in the moment.
Yeah.
Everything that I am working on and working towards at the moment is towards the mountain of the goal that is 3D character animation. And I know that if I get halfway up that mountain and I decide it's not the right mountain, I can go climb a different mountain, like maybe Illustration Mountain or something like that. But at the moment, until I validated or disvalidated the mountain that I'm climbing, I have to put all of my effort towards that mountain. Otherwise, I'm doing it a disservice, as well as anything else that I would try afterwards. Because if I don't climb Animation Mountain and either find that it is my mountain or find that it isn't my mountain, if I then go climb another mountain, I'll never know that, and I'll always be looking back with my FOMO and my what if.
Yeah, you've always just got to pick something. So I remember you and I were talking a couple of years ago, where you were really struggling to sort of pick a direction, and I think I was too at some point. But
you wanted to do characters, if I recall.
I wanted to do what?
If it's when I was thinking, I think you were still trying to pick between characters and environments.
No, this was more. Should I do architecture? Should I do archviz? Should I do game art?
That's a bit more recently than I was thinking. But it does illustrate the fact that you did have those questions over time.
Yeah, I did have those questions over time. And I remember thinking, I think maybe saying, like, you've got 20 things in your head, right? Like, you've got 20 ideas, 20 directions, and you're sort of spinning around in a circle, indecisively trying to choose one. Choosing one is better than continuing to spin in that circle and fumble, trying just going for one and sort of just seeing where that takes you, because not choosing and not being decisive will result in nothing. And so I think that's something that you're doing right now, is that you have been decisive in saying, yep, okay, there are other things I want to do, but I do want to do character animation. So I'm just going to go at that decisively, because being indecisive will only get me nowhere. And hey, if I conquer this, then that means that I will reassure to myself that I can, go and pursue illustration because I'm confident in my ability to learn.
It's also like, if you approach everything as something you could possibly do, that's a healthy respect in your ability to learn things. What it isn't is respecting the thing that you're choosing to do. Like, there is enough in CG, there are enough disciplines, even just within animation itself, the types of animation that I'm not focusing on. There's enough there that you could literally fill a 24-hour day and not, shower and brush your teeth. So by picking something, you're also saying, I will work on this in my work times, and that will be what I do. But then you're also giving yourself the permission to put it down and do other life things when you're not working, rather than worrying that you're not working on 11 other things that you feel like you should be maintaining.
It allows you to have a work-life balance.
I don't think it exists, but it definitely allows you to have a work balance.
Yeah. I don't know about work-life balance, but some sort of balance where you're not completely going mentally insane.
Yeah. Something that helps you include all of the things that you need to be a healthy, active person. And I've found that by not if anything, by not making a decision about the direction you want to go in and committing to it, you're just setting yourself up for a lot of anxiety and questioning, and it's just not worth it, because you will never find any time where you're not doing that, because you will never get to the end of all of those questions. There will always be something else that's like, what if? You just need to start
for sure.
putting everything in a line, take it from this amorphous cloud, put it in a line, and do one at a time until you know whether or not that's something you want to do.
And when you are going at those things, sometimes you really just need to be as much as you want to. Just don't scream it from the top of your lungs at people that this is what you're going to do, because that will only reduce the chance of you doing it. You can tell certain people that are close to you for a bit of personal accountability. That's fine.
And you need to get those close to you on side. If it's going to be a hard road, you're going to need to get the people closest to you on side, and they're going to need to understand why you're doing the thing and why you want to do the thing, which means that they're going to have to know what the thing is. But if you then go to Aunt Mildred, who has nothing to do with that, and you're like, hey, I'm doing this thing, it's going to be cool, and then they turn around and they're like, wow, that's fantastic, you're amazing, and I love you. There's the dopamine. It's just like Instagram.
Yeah, and then you go,
you've just deflated your balloon.
That was a nice bit of dopamine. I'm just going to go and watch some anime for today.
Because you've already got the thing you were looking for by being the type of person who does that thing.
Without being the person that does that thing.
Yeah, and that's the get good mentality. That's the actually showing up, actually sitting down and getting the work done. Which, I know we're harping on this, but circling back around to the topic today, that's why we're going quiet. We're not going silent. We're just shaking it up to make sure that our priorities are in order, because otherwise our advice is meaningless. Otherwise we are just the people saying, here's what we're going to do, and then checking the metrics to be like, did people like that?
Yeah, we're just we're a couple of armchair neckbeards.
We need to be real neckbeards.
Yeah, and look, my neckbeard is very it's getting long. But I really need to just go into quiet sort of incognito mode and just focus on the neckbeard growth. Just visualize the length of the beard and focus all of the energy from my cheeks, from my jaw, down to my neck.
And for anybody who's still listening after that,
I apologize.
Anyway, the point is, yes, we are changing the format. No, it will not be the same, but we think that serves the goal that we're trying to sort of get across by this entire project. So I think the answer to when to be loud and when to be quiet is when it best serves your goal. And what we've gotten out of this podcast, I think in the most general terms, is that we've solidified our goals. We've put into place the foundations and the frameworks to move towards them. And until we have something to report, it's just going to be, here's what we're working on, the same thing over and over again. And that's a good thing, because it means that we're working on it. If we're working on something different every week and we've got something to report, it means that we're sort of jumping around haphazardly and not committing to anything.
Yeah, and I'm keen to see where this new chapter of the GitGud Podcast or channel, or the Kris and Jayden channel really goes. I'm quite optimistic to see about what Kris can do with his channel. So he's already started that. Have you got any more content out of that?
I've been sort of focused on the animation course, not the one that I'm doing the channel on, but the one that I'm actually taking as a professional. So it's sort of like a blend between.
Yeah, give us an update on that. How is that going?
So the one that I'm doing at the moment is really good. It's with working industry animators. I'm not going to mention like the instructor's name or anything because I feel like that's just unnecessary, but they're working on some really interesting projects at the moment, which means that I'm actually getting... What's really interesting is getting up-to-date animation knowledge. A lot of the time, you're sort of cross-referencing animation that you learned out of a book, like Richard Williams' Animation Survival Kit, or something like that, and then sort of applying it to all of the education you've had in the software that you're using. And then there's sort of like this push and pull between animation principles and how the software works. And especially as a beginner, you're always trying to cross-compare those two and find your workflow, TM, air quotation marks.
Yeah.
What's really helpful is seeing somebody who's working currently, and a lot of it is unlearning, crutches that I've been leaning on. Stuff that I've been, overworking in order to sort of force the work into something that looks good. Whereas seeing somebody who's having to work quickly, there's a lot of don't use that, just do this, don't use, it's a relearning process. Here is what's actually important. And if you focus on this, you get 90% of the way there in half the time. And that's really what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on my speed and accuracy. And this is really helping with that.
Yeah, nice. And also, just to clarify, one that's been following Kris's character animation GitGudding, he's doing 2 courses. He's doing the Stay Alive course.
Right, so...
He's doing the Stay Alive course, which is something he's producing content about.
Still Alive is the series that I am producing on my 3D Draw YouTube channel. The first episode is in the works, but the announcement video's up. That's me going through Pierre Picor's Blender animation course, Alive. The reason I'm doing that is not to really learn animation, but to apply animation to Blender, because I want to be able to be flexible with the DCC I use. And by going back to fundamentals with that course and cross-applying something I'm familiar with different buttons and levers, allows me to more accurately transfer the knowledge I do have. The other course is an online animation school where I'm actually getting better at animation and producing shots for my portfolio. I might do some time-lapse of that stuff, but that stuff's more for my personal growth. So I'm sort of push-pulling in the middle where I'm learning stuff and then I'm applying it and sharing that on my channel.
Yeah, so when is your... So you're probably not going to have much of that content out, particularly soon, will you? Or what's the timeline for that?
Well, to be honest, a lot of the editing time for that has gone into the podcast recently, which is another reason why we are going on to a longer time frame with the podcast, because I do need a bit more time. Because editing video takes twice as long as editing audio. And I just need the time. Good advice I've received about doing something a bit more bespoke on YouTube is that the algorithm's going to hate you regardless when you're starting out. So you might as well just make good content until something hits and then be consistent.
Yeah, okay.
So, sort of playing with that.
Yeah, okay. I'm actually working on my first bit of content as well for my channel. I put out a couple of weeks ago on ArtStation and Twitter a project that I've been working on, which was just a stylized beer tankard. And it got some pretty good feedback. And I had a few people asking me about how I did it. And some people even asked for a tutorial on it. So I'm currently working on the sort of planning stage of a video where I'm just doing a breakdown of how I made that and sort of my process in. It's not really going to be about the modeling, because the modeling is pretty basic. Like if you've done a couple of Blender Guru beginner tutorials or Grant Abbott or whatever, then you'll be pretty set for the modeling side of things. But the texturing is hand painted, and that was what most people, or pretty much everyone, was really interested in knowing about. And I think that as Substance Painter and Stylized PBR has really sort of come forward, a lot less people have been focusing on hand painted, although there are niches for that. And so that's where I'll be going. I'll be going through the phase of just having the base bakes with some colors on there, and then going forward and sort of getting some initial texture, and then taking that through to a polish. It's not going to be like a step-by-step tutorial. It's just going to be a retrospect breakdown of my pipeline in how I created that texture.
And yeah, so this is sort of where we say we've got a lot of stuff in progress, and it is watch this space, but also watch our individual spaces, because that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to move it into a position where it's more of a loose network affiliation under the GitGud project direction. And so if we find some other artists that we want to interview, stuff like that, we are going to bring them into this channel and maybe put up a podcast interview. So it's going to become not ad hoc, but just a little bit more composite. And we're going to be focusing on more bespoke content, because at the end of the day, I'm very interested in animation. Jayden's very interested in hand painting. We're both very interested in CG art. And so we're crossing over the Venn diagram and being like, here's what we can do collaboratively, and here's what we sort of want to hyper-focus on in our own sort of niches.
Yeah. We'll have our own sort of niches of where we are going to hyper-focus. So my channel will obviously be a lot more about hand-painted stuff, working in Blender and possibly a bit of 3D code and Photoshop. Kris will be very much the animation in Maya and Blender kind of dude, and that will really sort of cross-contaminate. No, not that's a bit of a gross word, but that will sort of come together on this channel.
Cross-pollinate.
Cross-pollinate. That's the sexier word that I was looking for.
And that's not to say, like, this channel is not going dead in the meantime, because we are going to be filling the gaps with, as we mentioned before, GG.CG, which will be a bit more fun and a little bit less work. So hopefully there'll be something for you to sort of tune into that's more of just this sort of background banter, but maybe with less that you have to sort of get a notepad out and really process.
And there'll be some stuff that's really just, unusual. There'll be some gaming stuff where, I don't know, maybe we'll just be playing Splitgate and we'll be getting ripped to shreds. I don't know.
We are bad at Splitgate. But it is fun.
I'm so bad at Splitgate, but... and that's weird, because I mostly play shooters nowadays, yet I still suck. I think that's because, and this is getting real off topic, but I think it's because when I played Overwatch, that was my main game for a while. I was playing all the heroes where you don't have to aim. It was all about the strategy of how you use that hero. And so, like, say Moira, for example, or Junkrat, where it's like, you can aim, but that's more optional. It's about, your positioning and how you're supporting the team and whatever else. And
so tune in next week for Jaden's Overwatch podcast.
Overpod.
Pod watch?
Overpod? Podderwatch? I don't know. I think we're rambling off into the distance now.
It does seem that way. Where can people go to find you on the internet, both now and in the future?
You can find me on Twitter at JSTO_art, or on Instagram at Jayden.ray, spelled RAI. How about you, Kris?
You can find me at animatorkris anywhere on the internet, including Instagram, where I've been doing Inktober daily sketches if you want a bit more of Kris in your coffee. You can also head over to the 3D Draw YouTube channel and just see what I've got up there already. the consistency will start at some point. It's just not started yet. So it might have started by the time this podcast goes out. You never know. It's a surprise. You should go over and find out, and then you will also know. I guess that's it for season 1 of the GitGud.CG Podcast.
True, this is the end of season 1. Alright.
And season 2 will be starting in 2 weeks from now, meaning there is no podcast next week, and there will be something going up the following week. In the meantime, we'll probably be doing some experiments.
Yes.
So do tune in for those. We'll try and signpost it as much as possible, but mainly we're just trying to figure out how to do video, how to stream, how to become all of those things that people 5 years younger take to like a duck to water, and that we will struggle with mightily.
Wow, thank you for that, Kris. Alright, thanks for listening. See ya!